Hey everybody, welcome to the What's Up Solar Podcast. That's Watt, like in the bulb, up Solar Podcast. Today, I have a cool guest. I'm going to say it like this. It's been a lot of thing about immigrants lately. But if it wasn't for immigrants, as a matter of fact, some of my people are probably immigrants involuntarily, but this country wouldn't be where it is today. And first generations come here with the new zest, come here with the new zeal, come here with nothing sometimes and make it. Ladies and gentlemen, Ziwen Deng.
That was hot. We got off to a hot start there.
Hey man, like they say, coming in hot.
That's right. That's right. Let him cook. Let Emmett cook.
You know, I, I I really like when we were talking, when we met and we chatted a bit about I like startups. A lot of
Yeah.
startups don't make it, but I like startups because that shows initiative. That shows, hey, I got an idea and I think it'll fly. A lot of times it doesn't fly because of finances. I don't think it doesn't fly because of concept or maybe market
Mhm.
research. But you decided to venture into sleight of hand, the renewable energy space. What drew you to this crazy space?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think there's a lot of different things to be excited about with renewables. Little backstory also. I think my first exposure to renewable energy was probably when I was in college. So I was at Duke doing a summer internship for the conservation fund. And they had this micro loan service that they did with a lot of farms out here in North Carolina. And that was like, hey, you're using this old gas equipment, using this really out of date, inefficient piece of machinery. Why not just rip it out, replace it with something more efficient?
Yeah.
And I was out there, pretending like I knew what I was talking about at 20 years old, right? Like, oh, well, if you just use this little shiny brass thing, that runs on solar energy, saves you, $100 a month, something like that. So I think, where it really kind of clicked for me was seeing how those emerging technologies could actually benefit people's lives,
Yeah.
people in farms, people in disadvantaged areas, people who had, limited or inconsistent access to power, things like that. And that was always just like a central theme I was drawn to because I'm always been the guy that said, okay, if you have a tech solution, if you have something innovative here, there's probably a whole bunch of people out in the world who could benefit from it who just never have thought about that. Right? They've always kind of accepted here's what might be status quo, here's what I'm doing now. Tomorrow's going to be no different. And I've always liked that new concept over to people who could benefit from it the most. So that's really what drew me to renewables in the first place. Is I think that's to me one of the biggest examples of we've done things for so long a certain way, and renewables is here, and it can benefit so many different aspects of what we do on a day to day.
A startup solves a problem typically. That's how they see a hole somewhere and they say, I can fix that. What
Yeah.
was the problem you decided to fix?
Well, with our current startup, the problem we're fixing, I think, is a little larger than even just the renewable space. But I think it's like where it's the most acute. There are so many jobs that are about to open up, and you probably have seen this, right? In the next 5, 10, 15 years,
Oh, yeah.
where you really just need someone to go out and do something physically. That's really what it comes down to, right? That's what a lot of field work, trade work is just you got to work with your hands, you got to fix something, you got to install something, you got to do something out in the real world. Um, for every 5 people who are retiring, who are a little bit older
Ooh.
in the next couple of generations, I'm not lumping you in that category though.
No, no, no,
Don't
no,
worry.
no. I know exactly where you're going with this because I've
Yeah,
been saying it for 15 years.
yeah. And that gap's only going to get wider, obviously, right? I mean, we are in the age of screens. We're in the age of I want to be a YouTuber or an influencer rather than I want to, do something in the trades, right? Or I want to even be, someone in a white collar job.
I'm laughing because there was a TikTok that I saw today, as a matter of fact, about this electrician. He was like, "You want to know why there's nobody in going into the trades, why we don't have skilled trades workers. It's like because our hands are too soft. I was, and then I thought about it. My dad was an electrician, and he used to take me and do jobs when I was like 8, 10, 12 years old. I mean,
Yeah,
jobs.
yeah,
I worked. And I'm
yeah,
thinking about as like my kids, their hands are soft. They were like, ew, I gotta, what?
yeah.
You
We don't
know,
want to
so
get our hands dirty anymore,
yeah,
right? Listen. I have to lump myself in that category too, just to be
nothing wrong with
perfectly
that.
honest, right? You got to
I'm
call
with you.
spade a spade. But I mean, it's nonetheless a problem. I mean, for every five people who are retiring, you get like one or two people who are taking their jobs. That's kind of what the current research and the current workforce trend is.
So is that the
So
gap that you're seeing with this?
it's a huge gap. It's a gap in manufacturing. It's a gap in skilled trades. It's
Yeah,
a gap in renewable energy. There are some folks that we work with even now who have told us stories about the people that they've had to bring in as apprentice or just as novice trade workers
yeah.
who had like no prior experience. I'm sure you know a lot of these stories too, right?
Yes,
It's like,
that's why
hey,
I'm a trainer.
yeah, you can climb a ladder, you can drive a car, you can operate, up to 50 pounds worth of equipment. You're good to go, right? And it's going to change a lot of different things about how we think about like skilled labor and also just about work out in the world, in the physical world. You're probably seeing some of this even with your training. People who are younger are going to respond differently. They're going to learn differently to the types of requirements that you need to actually do these jobs. We are trying to
Yeah.
give them that information, that knowledge, so that they can learn it more effectively and kind of carry that with them when they're doing those jobs.
One of the things that I always carried with me as I went about the world training, but particularly in the United States, is we have different regions. In those different regions, it reminds me of when I was growing up in Detroit, we had different neighborhoods. You had to carry yourself, you had to communicate a different way as you move through those neighborhoods. As I move through the country training, I have to have a slightly different approach. That's just regional. But then we get into demographics. There's a whole different swag that you have based on, let's break it down now, generational, racial, ethnic.
Oh yeah,
There's these things that as a trainer that I've accumulated by trial and error to connect with people because that is my goal is to literally connect with people. And I think that's what you're trying to do too is understand this market and offer a solution for it.
for sure. I'd also love to hear your perspective on this, right? Because there's been field ops managers, directors, people we've talked to who have not even embellishing what they're saying. They've straight up said, "I wish I could record a TikTok for all the different things that my new guys got to do," because that's the way that they're going to watch it.
But it's so, oh my God, you just hit my point. That's why I do what I do right here. That's why
Yeah,
you're always seeing me in media. And this is why I love guys like Solar Boy because I'm of that ilk too. If I want to find out how to change my brake pads, the first thing I do is bring up a Toyota 2003 Yaris and see how somebody's done it first before I do it,
yeah,
or if I get into trouble, which lends itself back to training. Training has evolved.
yeah.
But the problem is, and a lot of people don't understand this because I have this conversation consistently with people. I'm like, we're in an attention economy, meaning you have to provide everything in bites of sound and visual. People are not reading a PDF.
Even though that's where most manuals and everything else still is on,
Most
right?
manuals are, and
Yeah,
I because if I want to get you certified to install a battery, okay? Here, everything is in this manual. Ziwen, take this home. We're installing the battery tomorrow. You're going to get on site and go, And then I'll start working and you'll start to relate what I'm doing from the manual
Yeah, exactly. It's
versus take the video home and you would have jumped right in.
yeah, I mean, we're visual creatures at the end of the day, right? But not only that, we need. I mean, hell, like I don't know if you watch TV with the subtitles on these days.
Well, I told you
I don't know
about
when
that.
that happened, by the way. I mean, we were talking about how we're both going deaf, so yeah, it's just a trend that people. I mean, we respond to just multimodal kinds of learning. That's
Yeah.
really what it comes down to, right? Um, Younger generations are only going to go further into that. So I'm not saying we got to put, TikToks everywhere. I'm not saying we got to use, skibbity and like all these other new terms out there, even though that is a new word in the English dictionary now. I'm just saying that we got to evolve some of these ways that we give people information, and especially when they're actually doing jobs, when they're on site, when they're out in the real world, when they have not a lot of time to look things up or go through a PDF, skim through manuals, that kind of thing. We're trying to bridge that, take all that information, kind of feed it through one single lens, and just have people look up what they need, right? When they need it.
But here's a thing that's going to happen because I find it in my own life. We're going to give everybody the things that they need visually, auditory, so they can digest it. And you just mentioned two visuals in one because you're right. I watch TV with the subtitles on, and I could never do that before when I was very, very young. Could concentrate on both of them.
Yeah.
But AI is, but giving everybody every little piece and being able to say, um, RS-485, in-phase inverter, battery, connection. And you know how YouTube, you can type that in, it'll give you the video, but then it'll shrink it down to just that portion that you
Hmm.
want. It's going to cause us to stop thinking. That's my worry is that we will get
Yeah.
lazy with the advances that we have available to us. But they are necessary. The things that you're doing is totally necessary in this day and age because we're in a transition phase.
Yeah. I think it's like any new technology or new tool, and I think a really good example of this, right, is if you look at like when cryptocurrencies and blockchain first came out.
Oh, I wish I would have had that $250 in there to, yeah.
I mean, as a side note, I had a friend, and he's going to kill me for bringing this up on any sort of public recording. But I had a friend who told me that he was doing like a computer, development, gig work thing, like back when we were in college. Had the option to take, I think, like 10 or 15 grand up front, or take like 100 Bitcoin or something. And obviously took the money, because what was a Bitcoin back then, right?
Right.
It's just
Mm, mm,
loose
mm.
programs and everything. And I still remind him of that periodically, every 3 to 4 years. It's like,
How dare you?
I
But
mean,
you,
it's what you do.
but
In any case,
things
so it
evolve.
reminds me, yeah, things evolve, and when new technology emerges, like to me, all of these different technologies, from blockchain to AI to whatever's robotics, whatever's coming next, it's only going to be as useful or as detrimental as the people who are implementing it. And if you are a company and you're saying, you know what, here's AI and just run loose with it, go out on site, look up everything you possibly need. We're going to be done with documenting things, right? AI solve all our problems. Just run it on Copilot. You're just you're just there to provide the hands for it. You're not going to have a good time,
Mm-mm.
right? So it's on the companies, and part of that's what we do. Especially with some of the solar partners we're working with, we are not just introducing like our product to their field workers, to their technicians. It's more like just consulting them on, this is probably one of the first ever AI projects you're doing in your company. So here's how you should think about governing it, just from top to bottom, right? Because it can, like you say, it can get in a lot of different places. It can do a lot of more harm than good if you're not thinking about it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
can. I have this question though about this is about you personally. How do you have time? Because if I looked at your LinkedIn, it shows you like working for like 15 companies. No, I'm kidding. It shows you for like two companies full time. How is that possible?
Yeah, so I work at my current startup full time. I ran a strategic accounts team previously at my former startup,
Ah,
and so that's where the differentiation is. But I mean, I think you and I kind of bonded on this when we first talked. But I like to keep busy. I mean, that's just what it comes down to,
you
right? Like
you
we
saw
only
me.
got so much time in our lives to do productive work, and when I see something, it's easy to really imagine like the possibilities, right? If you know a problem, you know kind of the different ideas that you can apply to solve it. Like to me, there's it's a really good feeling to be able to see your ideas like out in the world being adopted by other people.
Yeah, that is
That's
nice.
like the purest form of what to me like a startup is, right? It's just do your ideals hold any merit with anybody else, right? Are you actually solving a problem that somebody else really cares about?
You know what I like about startups? The initial
What's
people.
that?
The
Yeah,
initial people. But you know why? Because they are committed. They have
gotta
a
be.
they have a passion for, and I'm not talking about like the startup when you and your buddy like 1 year after you had a pizza
Selling
and a
lemonade.
beer and you're
Yeah,
like, hey, we should start this thing and you get funding. I'm talking about those people that you bring in to start doing things.
yeah,
Those are usually the people who it's easy to fall in love with them in the business because you see their commitment, their grind, and their dedication. So salutes to
yeah.
all you startup people who jumped right in.
And we're all in this grind together, guys. That's for damn
Yeah.
sure. I
And
mean, it's not easy, right? Like it takes a lot of I think courage and maybe a little bit of delusion to go out there and say I've left the safety net of a like I left my job like voluntarily. I wasn't laid off. I wasn't fired. I wasn't underperforming. I don't think. And somebody will correct me if that's not the case. I just really had this itch.
yeah.
Um, and I built up enough of a nest egg to be able to really try and see it through to the end. And I think one of the very common things that you hear is like it's a lot harder than you think it's going to be, right? But I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say like there are times when you think this thing is just not going to work. I mean, I think that's like a pretty common like shared trauma amongst everybody doing
Mm.
startups. There's going to be 3 or 4 times at least every few months where you're going to think like am I just running into dead ends because I'm not capable enough because nobody cares because I'm not even trying to solve a problem that people actually have a pain to. And honestly, like the biggest lesson that I've learned through all of this is just how you push through mentally when you go through all that. And a big part of it, like you said, is you got to bring some people around you, man.
You have to bring some people around you that have the passion. They may not have the same passion, but they got the passion for the goal.
Yeah,
And that's really, really important. So
yeah,
you and I are in, let's say we're in a Holiday Inn at El Segundo going up to the third floor.
sounds very specific.
I'm like that. I'm pretty weird. I see this and I'm like, what's up, man? And you're like, what's up? And I go, we got 3 floors now. Remember that. And I'm like, what do
Hmm.
you do? What's
Oh,
your
the
answer?
elevator pitch. We going up. We going up the stairs. Or we going up the elevator.
We're going
I
up
got to
the
know how much time I got.
elevator. We got
Yeah.
3 floors in
Oh,
an
we don't got
elevator.
much time left.
No.
Yeah. In an elevator, in a nutshell, what we do with Sure Steps is we basically organize your field knowledge into one cohesive digital standard that you can then access really quickly on site.
Dang, that was good. Like that was
Quick,
that
right?
wasn't even a floor.
Boom, boom. That's right.
So here's the thing. I was working for a startup that's not, they're kind of still really a startup, but they had this, they brought in their own wiki. Is this similar to that?
Yeah. I mean, there's elements of knowledge management in what we do for sure.
Mhm.
I think if you just look at it as a big umbrella term, yeah, like it probably falls the best into knowledge management, right? Which is just like how do you get the right information to the right people in the right format so they can do their jobs really well.
Right.
The difference is if you look at a lot of these tools that are out there, right? Whether it's like an internal wiki, you ever heard Confluence?
No, I haven't heard that.
Okay, so Confluence is basically like a company wiki, right? You create pages, articles, links, so on and so forth. Or a good old fashioned just G drive, right? Just drop a bunch of files
Oh,
and folders.
ow!
You know,
I think I just had a small aneurysm when
just
you
give you a
said that.
hemorrhage. All of these different things were meant for desk desk based office
Yeah,
workers, right? If I have a big monitor, which I know you and I both do, I got an ultra wide over here, I can put up a Confluence page, I can search things, I can take my sweet time, and then I can look through the fine print, right?
yeah,
And I can figure out what I need. When you're out there doing practical work on inverters, when you're wiring things, when you're doing maintenance, you cannot go into a Confluence or a Google. I mean, this is like really practically what people are telling us, right? We have a Confluence and nobody goes through it.
yeah. Field work is. I mean, you have to think about this, particularly in solar. There's one of several scenarios you're going to be. I'm going to stick with the commercial aspect of it. You're out in the middle of a field, maybe not the greatest of cell service, or you might have good cell service. There's grass up to your knees, maybe. You're lugging tools around and you're trying to figure out how to deactivate the rapid shutdown of this inverter and find some kind of box. And you're just seeing this information for the first time. So you whip out your phone and you read really tiny print. Well, my eyes aren't the greatest anymore. I don't read little bitty print. Even if I blow it up, now I have to scroll across to read the sentence.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying. How do you address that?
It's not through any one specific solution, right? Like it's not just by giving you big videos or pictures or things like that. It's not just by doing the narrations, but it's a combination of all those things. So it's just like what we talked about with watching TV. We're going to give you the subtitles. We're going to jack up the volume to 150. We're going to have a narrator doing like the dub right
Yeah.
over the soundtrack,
Yep.
and we're also going to give you the visuals to go along with all that,
That works.
right?
So,
So we're going to hit you with all the senses, but eventually the vision is you're just going to chat with this thing, right?
oh,
You're gonna hit one big button, and you're going to say, hey, Copilot, I need to do this thing. Here's what it looks like. What do you got for me? That's the real like long-term vision of what we're trying to do.
I don't think it's that long away. I don't think
Right.
I
Right.
think it's like very near because put it like this. I was telling you about this C++ program. I used to sit and code that. Now
Yeah.
I literally said, "Hi, I have an Arduino trinket that I would like to control 5 LEDs, bring them through the full spectrum of their capabilities using an Arduino tree. Please write this program in C++." I made like 3 changes into it
Yeah.
because I wanted it. It didn't give me like a fade, so I put a little fade thing in there. It would. I literally copied the code, put it in the GUI, and it ran.
And it worked, right?
It
Yeah,
worked.
it worked. Yeah.
I was
Made you
like,
look like a genius.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
But that's where we are with programming. That's where we are with some forms, some instructional stuff with AI. But it's only going to grow because it actually takes our input and does some kind of reasoning with it from everybody
Yeah.
globally. So what you're doing, you're just at the forefront. You're the leader of the pack, and I'm glad to know you. Now, will it take manuals as well?
It's going to take a bunch of things. So, one of the biggest focuses any AI based company is going to have, right, is if I just give you ChatGPT, actually, you could do a decent job of putting in enough of your questions and your, experiences and everything else to get like a pretty personal guide of some kind. But you don't know where that information is coming from, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to give you all the citations. It's not going to be like, I only looked at, like the .gov and the .org, websites and everything.
And it's been
So
wrong too.
plenty of times, plenty of times, even though, the companies behind it won't admit to that most of the time, right? And so a big part of what we focus on is sanitizing the information that's coming in from only the places and the sources that you trust, right? So that's like your company's information, but not all of your company's information, right? Because what you probably wrote 2 years ago is not relevant to what you're doing now.
That is a great point. That
Yeah.
man, you just got me with that one. Because here's the application. Sometimes the new stuff doesn't cover it. You have to reference the old stuff, and
Hmm.
vice versa.
Yeah.
Because I've done that in troubleshooting myself. I'm like, and sometimes they leave out things in the new that you needed from the old. But
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. It's it's getting very niche down for your problem.
Because also, if you think about it, right, no company stands still. The person who created whatever it was 2 years ago that people were referencing, they might not be there in 2 years, especially in certain industries. I mean, in renewables, I think we see that a good amount is you
Oh,
get the turnover. Somebody comes in, does it a different way, says there's different information that you got to digest, and now all of a sudden, if you're out there doing an actual field, if you're doing an inspection, maintenance, whatever, you're like, okay, well, who am I supposed to listen to? What was
yeah.
like the standard that we're setting here? So we take that information that's the most relevant. Right now, I mean, we're working with the companies themselves to really like fine tune what that information looks like from
Yeah.
their side. But then we also feed in things like the National Electric Code, right? We feed in like trade specific like publications and trainings, licensing practices, so on and so forth. And we're also feeding, like you were talking about, like the manufacturer, the OEM manuals and data as well. So I'm not going to pretend like it's perfect, but our objective even right now is to get you a lot closer to like a solar specific copilot than if you just opened up ChatGPT, right, and you ran through the same
So do
instructions.
you have demos?
We do, yeah.
And where can people find the demos?
It's at suresteps.io,
See how I got you to
or you can
plug
just reach
that.
out to me. That's a great plug. Like, we got there early, man.
Hey, no,
Hey,
it's reinforcement because I'm going to ask you again. But
that's right.
as we have progressed through this, I made sure that I plugged with the elevator speech with
I love
this
it.
one, and then there's going to
Yep.
be another.
Yep.
You're
Yeah.
making me give away my trade secrets, guy. Come on, stop it.
Don't worry, we're not coming after you. I couldn't do what you do. But I mean, I think that's a big part of it is, like it's an exciting time to work in this industry. All of the turmoil aside, like I think it creates so many opportunities to really like reevaluate. Okay, like renewable energy is not going to go anywhere, obviously. I think everybody acknowledges that,
It
right?
is
I've been on a few
not.
webinars. Nobody is saying, okay, this is the death of solar, this is the death of, hydrogen or wind or geothermal, whatever. But my perception, and I think this is an interesting dynamic that we currently have with the industry because we're relatively new, right?
Mm,
All things concerned.
yeah.
Our perspective as a newcomer is that there was a lot of like disorganization, right? In terms of like how companies manage their processes, in terms of how people were
Oh,
trained, in terms of how people even just, like did business, right? And
oh,
I've heard a couple of interviews that you've had with people who've observed that kind of thing.
oh,
And
it's crazy.
yeah. And so that's actually like not a bad thing as it pertains to startups. Because if the objective is to make order out of all of that, well, this is a really good time to start really looking heavily into that if you are a business that's been around, right? It's time to get your shit together.
I think what you are doing is on the cusp of what is happening, and I'll explain that. So there was an interview that I was listening to, and they made such a poignant. Fact. Renewables is actually for people with money because it's so expensive. What the tax credit was a creek open door for businesses to allow people who typically couldn't afford solar to afford solar
Hmm.
with a PPA. So they've taken out the financing part and said, you guys are going to have to figure this out again and get it right this time and make it, this is the time to figure it out to get it for the masses. Because
Yeah,
it really is a, you got to have, I mean, just think about it. A nice PV system, I could buy a loaded F-150 or a really nice car for that thing.
yeah.
Everybody can't afford that.
No, but it's going to pay you back, and the F-150 is not going to pay you back, right? In the same way.
I don't know because it pay me back in clout chasing.
Paid you back in views.
Yeah, there you go, something like
That's
that.
good. That's good.
Especially in Indiana, they think I'm a boss if I show up in a nice truck.
Hey, we're from Detroit. I'm just glad to hear that you're sticking to the big three
Oh,
and everything.
I mm, well, yeah. I 50-50. I buy
Oh,
used
okay.
cars now. I don't buy new cars.
Oh, same. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got a Chevy Trailblazer outside,
I'm not,
2 years old.
I'm
It's
not
just
going to even
easier
talk
that
about
way.
it. I got a, what is that thing? A Jetta because somebody's like, you got 7K? I was like, for that? Yep. I was like, how many miles? Less than 100? Oh, yeah.
Less than 100.
I got it for like 7,200 with like 75,000 miles on it.
Wow,
I
you got a
couldn't,
deal.
couldn't pass it up. Couldn't pass it
Couldn't
up.
pass it up. Couldn't pass it up.
All right. We've talked about you solving the problem. We've talked about the generation because there's segments within the transitioning generations.
Yeah.
There's pliable, there's soft, and then there's baby soft. I call that my one who's like 16. That's baby soft. 'Cause she's like, oh, the wind's too fast. I'm like, that's just a fan, sweetie. And helping them get through this because you're going to have to tunnel things for specific audiences.
Hmm.
Outside of this, because you're a serial startup person, how can you see this branching off? I mean, even though that we still get information every day about the tools, but just in your wildest dream, what do you see?
Yeah. I mean, serial startup person or sucker for pain, depending on how you look at it, is. But I mean, I think like there's so many applications of this, right? Because really, what it comes down to is just can you equip people to do a job well? What I would really love to do, and I don't know when or if we can get there in the foreseeable future, but it's a big goal, is we want to make it easy for people to do something that they didn't think they were equipped to do.
Wow. I really like how you put that very simply.
Yeah.
That was
That's that
beautiful, right?
Midwest in me, man.
That was beautiful. That was like elevator speech coming down the
You
floor.
see the ray of sunlight hit me as I said that?
Mwah. But that's what people are looking for. Everybody's looking for help.
Yeah.
Whether they ask for it or not, they're looking for help and you're giving that help.
Well, and think about it this way, right? You got kids. Sounds like one's about to go to college. You might. I think when we talked, you said you had a couple who might have already gone
Oh
through,
yeah,
right?
I got adults.
Yeah, you got adults. Uh, I saw this report maybe only a few months ago that said here's like the top five categories of undergraduate degrees that have the highest unemployment rate coming out of college. Right? Computer science and computer engineering was one of the top five.
Really?
I think it was like number three in the list.
Yeah, I believe that because a friend of mine taught herself Ruby on Rails, and now she's like one of the top engineers.
Yeah, yeah,
She taught herself. She was a DJ before.
which is amazing. Yeah. So our tech guy is one of those. He taught himself how to code at age 8, and they hired him with like almost no college experience into Apple's special projects group, which is like like the SEAL Team Six of like Apple developers.
It's passion.
Pretty amazing, right? It just takes passion. That's
It
it.
takes passion. I've said this. I've hired people, and they were like, they said to me, "How did you know?" I was like, "I saw the passion, but he didn't have the credentials." And this other person, I was like, "Yeah, that person didn't have the passion in their eye." This person was like, "I'll do whatever it takes to get it done."
You gotta care, right? At the end of the day, that's what I told my co-founders too when we started looking at other people to bring in. It's just skills is one thing. You got to have a bare minimum of skills and wisdom to you.
Yeah.
I don't dispute that. There's value in that, obviously. But if you have no internal drive or motivation to do something when it gets hard or to look up an answer when you don't know something, then there's no point in working at a startup.
So this makes me think the future of your business because you're about information. So we're talking about renewables. But we could be talking about HVAC. We could be talking about auto mechanics. And
Hmm.
auto mechanics breaks into two, which is combustion and non-combustion engines. We could
Yep.
talk about uh, oil and gas because they're always doing mechanical, physical things.
Hmm.
So this can be adopted. This could be in a restaurant business.
So funny. Like somebody else just told me that the other day. They're like, McDonald's could use this, right?
Yes,
And I was
I
like,
mean,
yeah, it's actually a good
anything.
point.
So
Yeah.
basically, what you are doing is helping along with the process. You are giving the specifics of the process. How do I do this? Look that up there
Yeah.
and through that voice. So
Because
that's
if you
great.
think, yeah, I mean, and to bring it back to the point about the undergraduates who can't get jobs, right? There's been a stigma around working with your hands, right? Like the comparison I always made was like, okay, I didn't necessarily grow up and dream of being a plumber or like an HVAC technician, right? There's not a ton of kids who, especially in this digital age, are like, that's exactly what I want to do when I grow up. But here's the problem. It's like when I was coming up, it was drilled in our heads. You got to go to college, get a 4 year degree, and then work in like a white collar job, like big tech, finance, right? You know, like that's the path to like wealth and like prosperity, American dream, all that stuff. Well, the people who are doing computer science degrees now have that same message drilled into them, and now they're finding that that's actually like not the case anymore,
That
right?
that was true.
So the problem is, okay, if those doors start closing, because that's actually where we see a lot of like the automation, the AI, and everything is happening, you might want to start looking at something like the skilled trades, right? That becomes a much more like viable and stable place because it's really hard to get AI to like unclog a toilet or to fix your HVAC, right? Or to, change oil in your car or everything. Like
I
there's
mean,
just there's nothing they can do.
even if they have a robot for it, robots need to be fixed, and robots are not going to fix robots because it takes a different kind of logic.
Exactly. Exactly. And so like part of what we see here is I mean, you're gonna, and there's big companies that are already doing this. Like we saw, I think there was like a release somewhere in Charlotte about Siemens when they couldn't find enough like skilled labor workers to fill certain roles, they just stood up like an apprenticeship program,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, okay, are you young and fit, and do you have some basic motivation to like work,
Yes.
essentially, right? Okay, come into our program. We'll train you up with some of the skills. We'll get you licensed. We'll make sure you follow the process, and then you can make a good living for yourself doing this work. People are going to have to figure out a pivot. And then eventually they're going to realize that this industry is like, these industries are really viable. And then as the tech, like in renewable energy evolves, it's going to go from like the grunt work and the blue collar work to like much more, I think, like socially highbrow or like socially, more like glamorous work. I
I
really
think
believe that.
I think you're right too, because you made me think of an industry that came to Detroit. When the casinos came to Detroit, nobody knew the formal way to deal baccarat, craps, all these
Hmm.
games, slot machine repair, communication for inside the house. I know because I opened MGM Grand. They had classes for 4 weeks that taught you all this stuff, whether it's for a dealer or for a technician or for food service. They got the people with the basic acumen, figured out where you would go, and popped you in those places and opened a casino. And I think
Yeah,
businesses are going to have to do that, and they're going to need tools like yours to aid them along the journey.
yeah, absolutely. And side note, if you have any connections at MGM, I know my parents are going to want to hear about that, so we should
What
link up after.
what's their game?
They love slots, man.
Do they?
They love the slots. They do. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say something else, but we'll talk about that off camera. Anyway, I want to thank you so much. Where can people find out more information about your product?
Yeah, so suresteps.io for anybody who wasn't in the 20-minute mark of this. We have a YouTube channel as well. I have my LinkedIn as well that you can connect with me. I'm pretty sure I am the only person with my name if you just like search it up. Um, and we're also going to be at RE Plus up on stage doing a little startup competition, a little startup pitch thing. So if you anybody out there listening is going to RE Plus, we'd love to grab a little conversation with you there too.
So, is this for money that you're doing the startup pitch? So, if I give you $20, I'll have 20 million in like 4 years.
Let's say yes.
Hey, I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast.
It's been awesome to talk to you, man. And we've only known each other for a short amount of time, but I see that this is going to evolve into a great relationship.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, think about this. Tomorrow is gone. No, tomorrow's not here. Yesterday is gone. The only thing you have is right now. Live in the now. Yeah, I always say this and I have to like iterate it to myself. Remember what you were worried about 5 years ago? Remember what you were worried about last year. Are you worried about it now? That's because it's gone. It's energy. It's gone. And speaking of energy, there's this big ball in the sky that we seem to worship. Everybody worships the sun. Wink, wink. And remember, the sun will never send you a bill. Till next time, love y'all. Peace.